In Tuesday's episode, I spoke about the topic of this week being taking the next leap forward and starting to bring guests onto the show. At the time, I spoke about the need to spend the appropriate amount of time and energy getting things right before we jump in and take action. Well, in today's episode, I'm kind of going to be flipping that on its head and talking about how I intend to just jump in the deep end. Hello there, my name's Paul Heron and welcome to the Zero to Marketing Hero podcast. This podcast is my year-long challenge to myself and challenge to hopefully get my head around marketing by uploading, creating, posting a podcast every single day for the next 12 months. It's gone like a flash in many ways, but I'm up to day 17 if you can believe it. And I really do feel like I'm about to make another huge stride forward. For some reason, I find myself with Tony Robbins on my mind today and two frameworks or quotes. I'll mention the first one now. I'll mention the second one a little bit later on. But the first is the idea of reframing or reorganizing or taking notice of our shoulds versus our musts. If you're anything like me, when I find myself saying I should do this or I should do that, I should go to the gym or I should lose a bit of weight, I kind of know deep down that, if all the dominoes fall into line and everything externally becomes easy, I might follow through on some of these things. But if it remains a should, it's most likely not going to happen. In contrast, if we can really understand our why, and if something can be reframed as a must, something we must take action on now, our brain and body just pick up on this very, very differently. And when this happens, I really find that this is when I'm energized to actually get up and start taking massive action. And I think that's exactly what happened a few weeks back when I finally, after 5 years of fluffing around, trying to get my head around some of this marketing stuff, made that decision to literally just jump in the deep end. It was because it effectively became a must instead of a should. So the last couple of weeks have been fantastic, really. I've found myself getting started and starting to put a bit of a plan in place about what it is that I want to achieve from this process. And this week, my attention has been on, all right, there's something still missing. There's something still not quite there in terms of this being a fully fledged podcast. And that final piece of the puzzle was to start getting guests on and to start sharing other people's experiences and to have this podcast really transform into what its potential can possibly be. So on Tuesday, I was saying in this podcast that I need to think about this week. And to some extent, I guess it's true, but when I take a step back and have a look at what I'm actually saying there is I'm actually saying I'm still not quite ready. I was feeling resistance to showing up. There's the technology side of things. There's the confidence in my ability to ask the right questions and to have the right people come on. And, if I make requests to people about coming on the show, what are they going to say? What if they say no? What are they going to think about me? The stories I was telling myself were going round and round and round and round, to the point where I actually found myself thinking, maybe I need more time to think this through. Maybe this week's not enough. Maybe I need to give myself another week before I finally have the courage to follow through on this action. And this brings me to the second Tony Robbins quote, and that is a quote that I first heard very early on in my coaching journey. I was actually doing my first coaching certification program, and this quote was probably one of many, but it is one that really resonated with me at the time. And that is that done is better than perfect. Now, as a self-professed perfectionist, that really, really hit home. And I think that's exactly what I found myself doing just this week over the last couple of days. If my goal is to one day master podcasting and interviewing and everything that sort of comes together, all those little puzzle pieces that come together to form a truly great podcast, the only way that I can ever get to that place is by making a start. I know this. It forms a huge part of my coaching methodology and the way that I'm interacting with my coaching clients. But it took me a little bit of time to actually realize today that this is what I'm doing. I am the beginner at this, and that's okay. I'm not the expert at this, and that's okay. I might get my first guest on board and it'd be a complete disaster. The camera might not work. The recording equipment might not work. It might be completely unusable, and that's okay. If I'm telling myself those stories, the opposite of those stories is also true. It may be fantastic. It may be exceeding of every single expectation that I can possibly have. So today I have decided to not need any more time to think about being ready for this and to literally jump in the deep end again for the second time in 3 weeks and commit to getting guests on this show as soon as possible. And just having that realization and that thought has actually changed the way that I'm approaching this. Over the last couple of weeks, I have spoken with a number of people, and I think it was myself. I had kind of held off. Yep, let's do this in a few weeks. There was one potential guest who advised to me, maybe a month down the track. But today I had my first conversation with someone where after this realization that I just need to make this happen ASAP, I am excited to announce that I've actually got my first interview in the calendar for this coming Friday, which is fantastic. And I honestly can't wait. I am super excited. But there is part of me still gnawing away just a little bit at this idea that what if you're not ready? What if you're not ready? It needs to be perfect. And no doubt, me being who I am, I will put I'll still keep calling it the appropriate amount of time, but the appropriate amount of time and energy into giving it my best shot on Friday. But whatever transpires as an actual result from that interview on Friday, I know that this is just a first step in line with me mastering these skills. For me to get to any level of proficiency in interviewing, I need to get started, and I need to get started ASAP. And as I said, I am jumping in the deep end and doing my first interview this Friday. So done is better than perfect. There is no such thing as perfect. All we want to keep doing is just moving that needle forward towards the success that we're wanting to create and taking action, taking massive action, understanding our why and knowing that we must commit ourselves to doing the things that are truly important to us, and continuing to move that needle forward is what this whole journey is all about. So that's it for today. I just wanted to highlight some of my thinking around the way I've been thinking about the distinction or the balance between needing to do particular things to feel ready and just deciding that, we've got everything we need right now and jumping in the deep end. It's been interesting just being able to sit back and identify some of this stuff. I'm sure some of these habits have been on autopilot for big parts of my past, but it's fantastic to be able to start taking notice of some of these habits playing out and hopefully giving me the opportunity, like I did today, to stand back and go, no point waiting around anymore. Let's actually do this thing and let's get the ball rolling. So I hope you've got some value from my insights today. If you've made it this far and that is you, please consider subscribing to the podcast. I believe it really does help in terms of getting the show out to a wider audience. If you have any thoughts, feedback, questions, comments, advice on how I can take these steps that I'm taking with a bit more confidence myself, please reach out and start a conversation. The best place to do that is probably through the Facebook group. You can find that through the links in the show notes, or head over to my website and there's a host of information about the show on there. So until tomorrow, bye for now.